do business with people they like. And so building those relationships and building a community feel where people feel, hey, I need some help.
Nothing beats getting in a room together and just throwing stuff up on a whiteboard and seeing what sticks and what slowly slides off as you investigate it further.
It's one thing to be able to say, hey, we know what the issues are. It's something entirely different to be able to say, and here's what the really smart CEOs are doing about it.
It's an absolute delight that I have Connor Widmaier on this week's episode of The Mind Behind. Tell you why it's a delight. I met Connor 8 years ago as a young, he was a teenager, shy, awkward, very much lacking self-confidence, but his mom had pushed him into going on to a professional development program. And he was sitting in amongst fairly grizzled, fairly cynical 30, 40, 50-year-olds, and he really stood out. You saw his confidence grow over the time that we were working together, and I've kept in contact since, and that was like 7 years ago. In that 7 years, Connor's finished college, he's gone to Germany, he's been an English teacher, he's gone back to the US, and now he's working, helping sales teams scale within the professional development and coaching world. He's working with some of the biggest brands in the world. But the thing that really kicks Connor out differently is just his openness, his positivity, his desire to learn and just keep as curious as possible because he knows that there's always somewhere else to go. So a little bit of a general introduction there, and you'll see where this goes, and you'll just see the delight it is to connect with Connor and get some of his insights into how people should maybe be looking at developing themselves nowadays, especially as Gen Z coming into a market and a workplace that's hugely changing with technology. Sit back and have a listen to Connor. Connor, it's been a while. Great to see you.
It's been a while. Amazing to see you.
Stop it. Got it. Look, we go back a few years, and that'll kind of come out just through our chat. But I'm really keen to just to get a bit of your background, kind of what you've been up to, what do you do, where are you, why are you there?
Yeah, great question. Probably about 6 years ago at this time, I had just no idea what I wanted to do career-wise. I knew vaguely that I wanted to do something that was like more independent, outcome oriented, things of that nature, but I was not that confident. And then my mom was like, Connor, I read this article. Warren Buffett said the best investment he ever made was in his self-education around communication. And there's this course. I want you to go to it. Trust me. It's in New York City. We'll pay for you. I was like, all right, you're fine. I'll go. And I went, and you were the trainer there at this Dale Carnegie course. Just completely changed my life. Like it was like a 0 to 1 moment of understanding that you can actually learn communication skills, and you don't have to be like limited by where your confidence level is, where your communication skills are now. Long story short, I went to Germany to teach, was also related to this. Then I wanted to start making money online. And so I found a bunch of different things, tried a service-based business, tried coaching, tried all of these things. And the first thing that really clicked monetarily was sales. I found these guys who sold a really great writing program. I sold for them for about 2 years. We scaled that business to over 10 million. I sold 3 million myself. And now I'm in a different sales role helping Tom Bilyeu, the founder of Quest Nutrition, scale his business coaching program. So long journey that started with the Dale Carnegie course.
Thank you for saying that. We rarely talk about the program and the impact. Maybe we should a little bit more on this. I hope you don't mind me asking, what age, how old were you when you went on the program?
I was one of the younger people there.
Yeah.
Most people seem to be professionals. I must have been 18, 19, the oldest, probably 18.
I was thinking 18.
Yeah.
And it's really amazing how many people come in the program at 30s, 40s, 50s that say, I wish I'd seen this when I was 18. And the difference it can make.
Yeah.
So, okay. So you did that. It gave you all this confidence. You had an opportunity to do a few things. What was the moment that you kind of thought, this 9 to 5 is not for me? Because everything I see that you do on LinkedIn is not a 9 to 5 role. It's not a nine to
Yeah.
five job. What's what was that about?
That's a fantastic question. I do just want to give you your props for a second because you were my instructor, and this is definitely not like I'm not a plant. I really just had such an amazing time that I really do need to thank you. I know it's been a few years, but you did such an amazing job. I think every single person who went to that event felt the exact same way and has the exact same impression as me. So I do just want to shout you out there for a second.
Thank you.
But the 9 to 5 not being for
You've got me blushing. Look at this. You got me stop it.
Yeah.
Look, here's the thing. When you have a room full of people
Yeah.
that really want it, that
Mm.
really are prepared to go to kind of a potentially a slightly difficult place and just challenge what we do, then we're in a really good space. I remember the first time I did the program, and Con, I'll whisper this. I think I was probably, yeah, I was in my 40s, and I thought I knew this stuff. I was actually training, and it was a complete game changer to me as well. So I think when we've been speaking about this earlier, the sheer fact that someone can come in at 17, 18, 19 years old
Mm.
and have that curiosity and be prepared to go to that place, that's it. So I genuinely think it's a combination, but thank you for your words. Thank you.
Yeah, 100%. But you had a great question. The 95 is not for me. I think I got infected by this idea. My best friend in high school, his name was Rory. His dad's name was Phil. And Phil was this wild man, just like super, not wild, crazy, just like had the most incredible stories. So he'd sit us down, he'd tell me about the time he got on a train to Italy. It ended up splitting in half, and then he was like in Serbia or something with a random woman in his early 20s, and just had all of these stories. And my family had never gone to Europe. So I just knew that like whatever I did, I was gonna make it so that I could go live in Europe and like have some Phil type stories. That was the main motivator. And I got this scholarship with the US State Department after college. And then when I was there, I realized, well, I see some kids that allegedly making money online, so I'm gonna try this too. It wasn't necessarily that like the 9 to 5 wasn't for me. It was just that I had these other priorities of freedom, travel, all of these things, and I just figured out ways to get those outcomes. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Would you regard yourself as a risk taker then?
Sometimes a little much.
Go on. You're not getting away with that. Go on.
Yeah. I
How
mean,
so?
I would say I'm not one to Ben, I don't know if it was Ben Franklin. Someone used to say like measure twice, cut once. I've
Yes.
typically been in the cut twice group, which has its pros and cons, but as you may know.
Yeah, it's really interesting. We have lots of discussions internally about goals. Get
Mhm.
a large part, we talk about setting goals and kind of having something to strive for. And I sometimes think if I'd set goals a few years ago, I wouldn't be where I am because I might not have had that flexibility. I might not have just said, "There's an opportunity, go," and kind of
Mm,
change direction,
mm,
rather than it may have been kind of rigid. And it feels like
mm.
you've kind of got overarching goals, but you're prepared to be very flexible with it.
Yeah, that's a great way to look at it. I mean, overarching goals, especially since going to the Dale Carnegie course, like something that's just so clear to me is I want to learn how to communicate better. I want to understand human psychology. But just going back to like goals and risk taking, shortly after I went to the Dale Carnegie course, I wanted to meet a girlfriend. That was just like the new goal that popped up in my mind. And armed with this knowledge, I decided to invite a girl to our fraternity date party. Previously, I'd only invited male friends because I was just so embarrassed to
Yeah.
even ask a woman on a date. And then I did it, and I just developed this principle for myself of fear is a cue for what to do. And that doesn't mean like jump off a bridge because you're afraid to do it, but just when it came to social situations and approaching people or like cold DMing a network, like someone that I wanted in my network or wanted to learn something or reaching back after you a few out back to you a few years later, it's just like if you feel that sense of like social fear, it's usually a good indication of there's opportunity on the backside of that perceived risk.
There is a train of thought that fear and excitement are very, very, very similar emotions. So
Uh,
we can repackage it quite quickly. Um,
that's right.
you mentioned building a network. Talk me through how you built a network because I know you've got an extensive network.
Yeah, I appreciate that. the biggest thing, there's this guy, Naval Ravikant. I'm a huge fan of his. He's the founder of AngelList, and he was the first person who really, really inspired me to make money online, that like it was actually possible. I didn't have that belief until I started reading his blog. And he's got a big thing, which is like, don't just ask people for a coffee. Like they're too busy. And so, for example, right now, I recently made a very, very small private investment into SpaceX. And it's like, how did I do that at 25? It's because I met someone who allocates capital into SpaceX, but rather than just asking for his time, I was like, hey man, I can do this thing for you. I don't know if you know how to use AI. I do. I think this would be really helpful for your business. Feel free to just use this for free. If otherwise, like, let's talk. And so now that's someone that knows me and respects me and refers me out to other people. And I didn't ask him for anything. I just kind of like helped him out without expecting anything in return. So that was something that I kind of learned from Naval. It's like be like develop skills and just be useful to people and don't expect anything in return. And then you're typically going to get things in return just by the nature of it, but don't expect it type of vibe. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's interesting. If we do a lot on kind of building networks, and that's what I did a lot in New York. And the it's very much we need to show value up front. We can't expect anything. A great line, and I'm sure regular people will be tired of hearing it, but on a networking event tends to be a room full of people trying to sell to a room full of people who do not want to buy. So now you've got this strange paradox where we're throwing in definitely about just connect, build a network, forget about somebody's background, whether you're in an aligned industry, just meet good people and good, kind of good stuff happens. So being able to reach out and do that is the other thing. I think you'll maybe like this one in the book. How to Stop Worrying and Start Living, written by Dale Carnegie as well. One of the principles in there is expect ingratitude. And it's quite a really clever principle. It's about dealing with stress. But when you do something for someone else, don't expect gratitude from. If you get it, that's super. But if you don't, it's not going to be kind of a point of friction. It is just what it is. So going out with that mindset, just let me throw good things out there and see what happens. Makes a difference. And you mentioned the AI. Talk me through what you're involved with. We're having. I've got two super interviews I just recorded quite recently. Talking about AI. We'll be speaking with Ted Miller. If anybody wants to check that one out about AI in law in the legal industry, and and Shabani Dar. Fantastic interview as well about the UX experience in AI. So where are you placed with this one, Connor?
That's an amazing question. I'm gonna have to send that AI and law interview to my father. He's an attorney on Long Island, and I've been trying to tell him about AI. He's gonna watch this and
yeah, I'll make sure you get a copy of it. I think it's just been finally edited, and Ted is good value, I promise.
That's amazing. Yeah, of course. Super high level. I kind of feel like a really beginner in AI, but I use it every single day, like for many different things. I think just to list out some of the ways I like to use it, the first thing I like to do is to use it as a life coach. Like yesterday, I said, hey, imagine you are Tony Robbins and Jesus in one person, right? You can give it an identity. And then I was just speaking to it about my goals and getting more clarity in that way. So I think you can easily add like 10 to 20 IQ points to yourself by communicating with ChatGPT on a daily basis.
Yeah, I think Tony would be quite happy with that. I think he would be quite happy to be in that bucket.
Yeah. So yeah, just that's the first thing. It's just using it as like a sounding board, right? It has unlimited patience. You can speak it, you can give it any ideas. The second thing, I probably shouldn't be sharing this publicly because it's pretty it's a pretty effective tactic. So nowadays, let's just say I work in sales. And if you're in sales, of course, people record their calls, and now there's lots of great tools that give you full transcripts, all of these things. Like any follow-up email I send, I basically now to backtrack for a second, Eli Wild is someone who I met here in Miami. He sold over 100 million for Tony Robbins specifically. And he told me whenever he gives a presentation, and he sold a lot of that 100 million from stage, he's thinking, what is the outcome I want to create? Do I want them to buy? Do I want them to apply? Do I want them to sign up? Do I want them to raise their hand? and then what beliefs do they need to have, or feelings or beliefs, in order to create that outcome. And so when I write follow-up emails, I don't actually write them anymore. I simply say, here is the outcome I want. I want him to, move closer to the sale. Here are some of the things he needs to believe. Here's the transcript of our call. Please write the most effective follow-up email. And now, am I literally sending what AI writes? No, but it writes something that's like 89% better than I could write on my own. And then I
Yeah.
go ahead and put the human touch on it. And so from that perspective, using it for like sales follow-up, it's just absolutely incredible, the efficiencies that it gives one person, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's interesting because I've heard differing views on how we should use AI, but we
Yeah.
would never dream of interacting with a client without checking the website or looking for Google reviews or looking at Glassdoor or looking at it, kind of get some understanding of the business, the values, kind of what they're trying to achieve. So we would always look for that. There's no difference. We're just at another stage that we can make it even more personal, more personal, more personal.
Mhm.
So
They,
great use of it.
yeah. And I want to like just definitely reiterate, like, you always want to make sure it's actually relevant to the person, right?
Absolutely.
We're selling to humans, and so you don't want to just robotically send AI written emails to people. But in terms of at least writing the most effective draft that you can then go in and edit and make sure that it's relevant to them, it's like it's so much better. It's so much better.
This is the key. The human element's not going to go.
Yeah, of course.
It's there to help us. AI hallucination is a thing. It's a real thing where it's maybe coming up with examples that just aren't real. It's happened a lot in the Southern Districts in New York.
Yeah.
It happened. We just
Oh,
need
I
to
saw
double
that.
check it.
Yeah, 100%.
You'll maybe like this. I did a bit of study on that last week on the case where it came up with false case studies and precedents that had been set. And as I was on it, I had this urge to ask ChatGPT, was it you that gave out the wrong information? It said yes. Then went into quite a long conversation of, well, why should I trust you? What safeguards are in place? And it was a really interesting, actually, kind of back and forth on this, on on just the kind of the thought process of an AI bot. It was fascinating, but I didn't expect it to say yes. You could have knocked me down with a feather. I was really surprised
That's
because
incredible.
I genuinely didn't know what
Mm,
what what platform had been used when I was
mhm.
doing the research. Um, so talk me through your business. Talk me through kind of what do you do now? How do you engage with clients? We talk about sales and
Yeah.
what's it you actually do now, Connor?
So, in terms of sales, there's this booming niche of sales, and I despise the name of it. It's called high ticket remote closing. I think, first of all, the word high ticket is completely misleading because it's like 5 to 10K, which for most industries is not high ticket for many industries. And then second of all, like the idea of like closing, it just the whole framing of it, I think is totally negative. But what these people do, and technically that would be the role that I'm fulfilling right now. But what these people do is there's lots of influencers who um, post great educational content. And then they usually have some sort of opt-in, which puts people on an email list where they then provide more value. And then a lot of these educational creators, they actually sell coaching packages, but they don't have the capacity to go ahead and take every single sales call. And so they will hire people on a commission only basis where you take the sales call, you help enroll people into the program, and then you get paid a commission. And there's a lot of young people, especially young guys, that want to get into this industry right now because it's kind of cool to work with, the famous influencers, the famous YouTubers, and everything like that. And you get their programs for free too, right? So you can
Hmm.
learn,
Yep.
network with those high level people. And that's technically what I'm doing right now. We just started with a new client who has a very well-known nutrition brand and a very well-known YouTube channel. And so that's where I'm at right now. Does that answer the question
Yeah,
clearly?
it does. It does. How did you get into that? How did you recognize that? And if there's a lot of people want to do it, how do you stand out?
Mm, that's a fantastic question. I got into that because of Naval Ravikant. He mentioned he had one tweet that was like, learn to build, learn to sell. If you can do both, you'll be unstoppable. And by building, he kind of meant like software engineering. And I obviously, well, not obviously, I have no idea how to do that. I was never good with computers, never great with math. And selling, that was like, that could be interesting, but I had a big objection in my mind, which was sales is unethical, sales is manipulation.
Yeah.
Making money is evil, like all of these limiting beliefs. And then I met a mentor who's like, sales is not manipulation, sales is service. Right. At the end of the day, if you help someone enroll in a program which you believe genuinely solves their problem that they express to you and aligns with the goal that they're going for, you're doing them a huge favor by helping them take that step. And I mean, if you don't have that conviction in the product, then sure, you could say it's unethical, but ultimately it's just a tool and a skill to help people. So that was the first thing. And then I saw Naval say that. And then second of all, I liked the idea of if you're in sales, there's no questioning like, did it work or did it not work? It's a binary results driven thing. And so while my meta goal for a long time has been to learn communication, to learn influence, to learn persuasion, just because I'm really curious about it, I wanted to be in an arena where I could continue living wherever I wanted and like providing a results-based income. So that's how I got into sales.
Live wherever I want to. That's kind of a well, it's something that lots of people want to do, and very few have the opportunity or create the opportunity. Not have the opportunity, create. Very few create the opportunity, and even fewer take it.
Yeah.
So where go on.
I forgot to answer the second half of your question, which was like how to stand out. It's actually pretty easy. What I would do if you wanted to get one of these roles is like you just DM the founder on LinkedIn or Twitter, and there's a very, very simple software called Loom where you can record your screen. I would literally just get a Google document up, say, hey, this is me. This is the reason I'm applying, right? Robert Cialdini has that great book, like people, respect reasons. And so you always want to give a reason why you're saying something. And because people just believe it more likely, give the reason and then a quick self-introduction, like you'll stand out of the millions of people that are just applying through the link. So all you got to do is like record your screen on a Google document and say, this is who I am. This is my story. This is why I'm applying. This is why I want to work with you specifically. And we had that happen at the last company I was working at. I was working there. There was another sales guy. And then this kid was like, I'm so ready to work with you guys. He sent us the video. I'm like, we didn't even have capacity on the calendar. The founder was just like, this guy has talent. We got to get him in now. And we found whatever work we could give him. And then eventually he became the third salesperson. So I've seen it happen. So,
Connor, it never fails to surprise me how many people contact me and say, do you have any sales roles? And I say, no. I never hear from them again. They don't sell themselves. And I almost deliberately say no to see what will happen. Because if we can't get over something, because I would be very easily tipped into having a proper conversation. If they don't come back to me after the first no, it's
that's genius. I like that.
Yeah, and it's we're very aware. We run lots of sales programs. The sales programs that we do tend to be designed for companies, so kind of working within their sales process rather than just having a very standard way of doing it. But very aware that we need to turn up in the way that we are, not just match the client. The client needs to see us as being authentic. And if that doesn't match in with them, I'm kind of okay with it. I'm kind of okay with it because if our approach, and I genuinely believe sales is an approach, not necessarily a process. You need a process within it, but it's who we are.
Tell me more about that idea of the difference between an approach and a process. That's interesting.
So the approach is more about kind of the internal beliefs, values, traits of that team in the company that come through, and then bring a process to life. We can write sales processes all day, every day, but it can be delivered in a very different way. And again, I believe that we need to have kind of no-go areas on it. And also the approach can be the same for different things. So if we're working with a company that maybe has a service department, a capital goods department, it might have a long life cycle. It could have a life, a sales cycle of 5 to 10 years easily with some of the products that we work with. That's a very different kind of process to the service and the aftermarket, after sale.
Right.
The approach can be the same. The values can be the same. They can pick up they can pick up the phone, or they can interact with anybody in the business and say that's actually what they believe. This is how they come across, and that's to me what differentiates a business.
That makes a lot of sense.
So we're very much about give us what you've got. Let's see how you do it. Okay, how do we bring that to life? How do we make sure that everybody's in kind of one space with it? So for want of a better word, the kind of the uniformity or something like that is about the approach. And then within that, every person's different. You and I know that. You'll have worked with some great salespeople who are very different from you, get equally good results, equally engaging, equally the clients will say the most wonderful thing ever. But they've got their own way of doing it.
That's right.
And I do see so many times, just come in and tell my salespeople to do this. It's not going to work. It's just not going to work. How have you get? I'm wondering, how have you found your way of doing things? Because if you went on a sales course or a sales program, they'll say you need to do it this way. You need to have this document now, and this is how you open up a discussion.
Regarding sales?
Yeah, how you find your way?
Okay, that's a great question. In like the high ticket closing space, which I don't love the name. I got to find a better way. Maybe we could just call it in online coaching sales. Kind of the number one like mastermind or training program. There's really two. There's this guy Cole Gordon who sells what's called 8-figure boardroom, and then there's this guy Jeremy Miner. And so I was very fortunate. My first ever sales role, I ended up getting trained by Cole Gordon's first sales guy, or his top sales guy, this guy Temple. He's amazing. He lives in Colombia, and so he had a very, very straightforward and direct way of teaching us. And now that I'm on this new role, I'm getting trained by Jeremy's former sales director, which is a very different type of sales. So it's really interesting comparing the two.
Nice.
I would say the biggest thing that comes to mind is there's only like so many things that are important in the discovery. And the discovery is probably the most important part of the sales
Yep.
call, like figuring out if and how you can actually help someone. Like, why are they on the call? And this changed everything for me because we're doing inbound sales where people contact us, express interest, raise their hand, book the call on their own volition, not cold calls. And that means if they're on the call, they have massive pain. Like there is something wrong in their life or in their business or in their fitness, like whatever you're selling. There's no way they would book an inbound sales call if something was not seriously wrong. It's that straightforward. So even if they're like, I'm just a little curious, it's like, no, and it's your duty as the salesperson to help them get absolute clarity on their current situation and their desired state and just like help them get that clarity, right? And you are kind of like that doctor frame of just like so curious about this person in front of you. Like, why are they here? Why did they give me an hour of their time? Like, what is going on? What is the problem? How has that impacted them? How long has it been going on? Why are they doing something about it like right now? Why can't they solve it on their own? Where do they want to go? And how is that better for them? And just like, if you can get them to express those things, you've done 80% of the work. And that's to me is the really fun part. It's just like having that genuine curiosity about the person across from you. And if it's appropriate, helping them solve their problem with your solution. So that's kind of what I've learned from those two different sales processes or
So
methodologies.
just finding out current state, future state, what's the gap? As is should be. What do we want to happen? Why are we having that conversation?
100%.
And I'll just point out, do you notice how that's different from many, many people that just go in and tell you how great the product is or the service without getting to know or understand why it might be important to you. One of the things when we're doing a needed analysis, I'm also looking for a match, to be honest with you. Can we work with these people? Are we going to have a bit of fun? Are we going to get you? Are we going to be able to roll our sleeves up? Are we going to be able to challenge each other when we have to?
Mhm.
This isn't a one-way conversation. It really needs to be collaborative. And I know that's thrown around a lot, but genuinely needs to be like, okay, we're in this together. You just as well give me your t-shirt and your signage. Let's deal with this. Interesting. Now I'm going to you've sold over 3 million. Now, let me just get this right. $3 million, that's US. So Australian, round about 5 million worth of services remotely.
That's right.
You're allowed to smile at that one. You're allowed to be happy at that. Almost feels like a repeat question, but how? What's the secret sauce? What's the thing that's is it really just the curiosity, or is it more?
Well, there's a couple things. Like, some might tell you it's a skill issue, and that's partially true, right? If you get better at sales, you'll make more sales. And I have so much to grow as a salesperson. Like, I'm nowhere near my potential, and I'm fully aware of that. The other thing is like the opportunity you're in, right? So although I've sold 3 million, I can't take all the credit for it. I was working with really strong brands, had amazing fulfillment, really strong customer satisfaction scores. And so it gave me massive conviction to sell the heck out of it and help people change their situations. And so it's, yes, on one hand, like, improve your skills and you will make more sales. But a lot of times, in my opinion, it's like, get on the golden opportunity, right? Where is the place where people are just pounding on the door, like, please let me in, please let me buy, right? And that's going to make all the difference compared to skill. It's like, what market are you in? How is that market growing or shrinking? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. But there is a perspective here, because you started off right away saying, look, I'm kind of lucky. I've got a decent market. I've got a good brand. We've got a good backup. There's credibility there. So that humility, I actually think, I'm just going to kind of give you a shout out for that. That humility, I think, actually takes us a long way. There's not that arrogance there's a confidence, but not an arrogance. And there is a difference when we're in sales. I see so many times salespeople almost, why wouldn't you buy what I've got? It's obviously fantastic. And maybe not saying it in those words, but definitely come across, that's the approach that they take. I think you're playing yourself down a bit. Okay, we need to talk about that offline. I'm just going to say that, Carl.
We can have that
have all
conversation.
that, and I've still seen people struggle to do it. There's also how do you deal with the no? How do you deal with that no? That kind of that slam.
That's an amazing question. It's something I'm still learning for sure, right? Sales is a game of highs and lows.
Yeah.
How have you typically dealt with it in the past? Just because I haven't mastered that at all.
I mean, let me know, what have you done? I'll tell you what I do. I can see you turning this around.
I would say at a high level, there's two pieces of it. There's one, like, and I had this conversation with my friend Tristan today, because it's the last day of the month. We had a big goal. We wanted to get the most amount of revenue, the most amount of cash in the business of all time, and we actually did it right before we hopped on here, which was
Nice job.
thank you. And it was thanks to him coming in too. And I was like, someone had just said no to me, and he's like, hey, I'm the head of enrollments. I'm gonna I got something special for you. And I was just like, he was on the other line. I was watching him do it. I was just like, man, how did you just like loop around so many times? He was like, because I'm helping them. I'm like, oh, like, he's like, to me, I was like, sometimes I get a no, and I don't want to be pushy. I don't want to be offensive. But I watch my friend Tristan, who's the best salesperson I know in person, and he's just willing to stick with people forever, because anything that he sells, he believes with 100% certainty is going to improve their life. And so that would be the biggest thing. Is just not, it's, you don't take it personally, right? It's a matter of helping them.
Okay, so it's only fair you asked me the question.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit older than you, Connor. I know it might surprise you. So I'm still learning in sales when it comes. I'm genuinely still learning. I think my sales approach has changed quite a bit over the last few years, and it's had to living in the US and the UK and now Australia. I kind of got to the point that, as I said, when we're doing this, I'm looking for the connection. Could we work together? And I'm really comfortable with telling people, and I'll only tell them it if I actually genuinely believe it. But I'll only say to them, look, I really want this. I really want to work with you guys. Do you feel the same?
Mm.
And I'm genuinely, again, comfortable for them going, we don't get it. It doesn't make them bad people. I'll still happily go out and have a coffee with them or a glass of wine. I'm okay. Just because we can't do a deal doesn't make, I don't take it personally, and it doesn't make somebody a bad person. And
That's right.
I'm really comfortable with exiting it and exiting it good in a good way. If we do want to work together and can't find a deal, can't find a way of doing it, maybe next time.
Mm.
But right up front, I'm constantly looking for is this a good fit? One. And if it is, how do we make it happen?
Mm.
And if they don't think it's a good fit, that's fine. I'd rather know now.
Yeah, please.
And you
If
know,
possible.
and watch people's reactions when you go, okay, that's cool. I get it. And you just accept it. No fight back, nothing. Because if they're coming to me and saying no, I'm going to guess they've spent a lot of time making that decision, especially with what we do. So really happy with kind of just showing you where we are. And it's genuine, it's not a play or anything like that. It's just and you never know when we'll get back together again. Never know.
That's right.
So it's just, again, do good things, meet good people, see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the best people I know, I've never done business with, and that's okay. That's absolutely okay.
I like that.
Have you? So we talked about no. Have you ever turned anybody down? Have you ever turned around and say, "This fit isn't right. This is I can't go any further with this."
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. I'll tell you, like, one of the bigger mistakes I made in the beginning of sales is like not appreciating the moments where that was appropriate, right? Was thinking like I
Yeah.
have tried to close everybody because I have expectations of hitting a certain number. Like that is the absolute best way to destroy your sales skills because it will crush your state moving into the next calls. And so, yeah, most definitely. I mean, I did it this week multiple times. You have to just be honest with people. You're not the right fit for this.
Yeah. This is a very different mindset from always be closing. Always be looking. Let's always look for the fit. Let's.
Yeah.
I think we become clumsy at times, and
Yeah.
we say things that we think we should say.
Yeah.
People to buy.
Mhm.
A couple of kind of final questions. Just
Yeah.
I'm going to guess if people have got those pain points, if they're looking for an answer, if there's something kind of serious going on, you're not the only ones that they reach out to. They'll look to maybe two or three. I'm guessing. I'm guessing. How do you get past how do you get past the BS and the smoke and mirrors that is associated with sales, especially, and I will call this out, especially B2C sales, business to consumer. There is a lot around that. How do you get past that point?
Past which point specifically? I
Yeah,
just want to make
where
sure.
people say like I'm a little bit hesitant here. I'm a little bit skeptical. There's a lot of BS around here. I know that somebody's just trying to sell to me. How do you
Yeah.
kind of stand out from that point?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. There's an NLP. Are you familiar with NLP?
I am.
I figured. There's a good.
It was my entrance into this.
There you go.
What I do now.
I'm a total baby when it comes to NLP. I just started getting into it, but Robert Dilts wrote a book called Sleight of Mouth.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yes.
it,
Gee, it's a long time since I've read that.
there you go. I think I was actually going to ask you off camera if you read it. I figured you've been into NLP before. It's genius. I really like this topic a lot. And inside there, he has like 13 different ways to reframe. And ultimately, we don't need to go into like so many specifics right now, but I think what goes really well in this B2C like post-trust environment is just like, look, I'm literally guaranteeing you nothing. Like, so say you're making like an opportunity offer. It's like you could make $0 with this, full transparency. that's 100% a possibility of this.
Yeah.
It's just actually telling people the truth. You're way better off, and it's ironically more persuasive, is just telling them the truth of the matter.
How easy is that? How
Sweet.
easy to learn to tell the truth? I mean, really. But again, we think that we need to use words that we wouldn't use every day. And interesting, yes. Interesting. Thank you. I'm just going to kind of draw a parallel as well, because you said that you've worked with these people. I remember Tony Robbins worked with Jim Rohn. That's how he started off his career as a salesperson before he found NLP, and then everything kind of, he was almost at the top table in that. Apart from, I'm going to call it, apart from that program that you did a few years ago in New York, in Manhattan, has it been a defining moment for you where that light bulb was just kind of so bright, it's just clicked and gone, that's the direction, or that's the thing I need to do, or got it? You know, you've been a state of confusion beforehand. It's like, there it is. Has there been another one?
That's an amazing question. And yeah, it happened a couple of years ago, actually. So I was in Germany for 2 years with the Fulbright program, which is through the State Department. It was really amazing. But then I hit it, like my scholarship was ending, and I wanted to make sure that I could continue to live from anywhere, continue to make money remotely, or start making money remotely. And I tried a bunch of different things that weren't working that well, from services, YouTube. A lot of things were kind of failing. And then I saw an advertisement for this closer role from Dickie Bush, someone who I respect a ton. I've been following him on Twitter for a very long time. I think he'll probably end up becoming a billionaire. He's just that great of a business mind, and I respect him that much. He's very young right now. He worked at BlackRock for a few years before starting his own business. And I just knew with 100% certainty, although I was unqualified for the role, although there were going to be a bunch of people applying for it, that I was going to get the role and I was going to do amazing at it. And so I told my girlfriend, who was at my apartment that night, like, hey, sorry, like I need to spend 2 hours crafting this application. Did exactly what I told you, recording my screen and doing X thing. And then I went on the group interview, and everybody there had sales experience. And they asked us as the last question, hey, if you were us, who would you hire today? And every single person said me. And it was just this moment of like, I was 100% certain this was going to happen a week ago when I saw the application. So that was one of those moments where, even though it didn't logically make sense, I just knew that I was going to go in that direction.
Nice.
Yeah.
Final two questions, Connor. Final two questions.
Please.
First, if you were giving another 18 or 19-year-old some advice coming into this, what kind of traits do you think? What's the things that they must have if they're going to be successful, or even begin to carve out some kind of position on this? What kind of traits do you think are characteristics are really important for them?
Yeah. The biggest one is what they call an NLP, the feedback over failure frame, right? Or like a growth mindset. Because when I started that sales role, even though I was 100% certain I was going to get the role, I went like 2 for 17 on the warmest of warm leads who literally wanted to buy. I was just so incoherent that they felt uncertain at the end of the call. And so what I did with that was, I didn't say I was failing. I said, okay, this is feedback, and we're going to get a loop out of this, an iteration loop, and I'm going to improve from this. So that would be probably the number one thing, is just approaching everything from this frame of feedback as opposed to failure.
I will just highlight one word you used extensively in our chat today was curiosity. Just be curious. Constantly just, how is that? Why is that? There's the own thing in training, never assume, and we've all heard that. But actually the opposite of just asking that next question. So I do see that in you. A final question. I promise, the final question. What challenge would you set down? We always ask our guests to set down a challenge for someone else. Something you can maybe do in the next week or two. It doesn't have to be huge, but might just change the perspective in some way and be maybe just a little bit out there. What challenge would you set down?
This is a great question. I would say, in the vein of fear is a cue for what to do, If you're looking for a little bit of excitement, probably the easiest way to create that is to just go talk to a stranger like today. Like the next stranger you see, just start talking to them. And what you'll find is a lot of limiting beliefs. This is another thing I recently learned from NLP, come from unanswered how questions. And so you might think it's hard to talk to strangers, but you actually just don't know how. And then the way to learn that is by trying it, and it will be pretty funny. And you might meet some really interesting people. Might just change your life.
And that is actually what tends to happen, isn't it? We
Usually.
do meet some really interesting people. It's amazing
right.
how many people are more than happy to talk to us and delighted.
That's right.
Connor, you're an absolute star. It's been an absolute genuine pleasure. I love seeing what you're doing online. I love watching you on LinkedIn. We'll make sure we put your LinkedIn details and everything and within the podcast when we post this. But thank you so much for being there. Thank you for what you do. And I'm looking forward to seeing you grow and learn and keep that journey going.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for inspiring me when I was 18 years old.
It's a pleasure. Thanks, Connor. We'll speak again. Take care.